Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with us here today. We appreciate who you are, and we appreciate that you're here. I'm really excited about today because I'm actually going to have most of this episode be my wife, Kathy, sharing with you some things about who we are as a company, what we do, and more importantly, inspiring you that now is your time to write your book. And not just write your book, but write your bestseller. I mean, I'm sure if you've listened before, you've heard our commercials that talk about now is your time to be a bestseller. But I really wanted to bring you part of our signature Write Your Bestseller in 1 hour workshop that Kathy does on a pretty regular basis and give you an opportunity to be able to really embrace that now is your time to write your bestseller. Now is your time to jump into our community and, more importantly, to share your message with the world. It's so important that you understand how important and how impactful you are. There is literally somebody waiting on your message right now. There is a high probability that somewhere across all of the billions of people that live on the planet, that there is someone right now that is actually on Google or another type of search engine. They have an issue. They have something that they need an answer to. It's something that you do. In fact, it may be something that you do with such grace and such ease that you've discounted it in your own life, that you don't see how powerful you are at it. I'll give you a perfect example. You heard in the intro, I'm a third-generation minister. My father is still actually the pastor at a little church up in Oregon. My grandfather was a minister to the very end of his life, working, in his last church was actually a mission for the Lakota Indians in South Dakota, and many, many other churches since then. My dad, to this day, is one of the most amazing teachers you will ever be honored to hear open up the Bible and teach to you. And I was talking to him the other day, and the reason why I bring this up is because, again, I'm talking about something that you do with such grace and such ease that you may not understand how powerful you are. I was talking to my dad, and we were talking about, going to church and those kind of things, and I told him honestly, I said, Dad, I struggle. I struggle with finding a permanent church home because it's your fault. I said, the thing about it is what I didn't know growing up as a child was how amazingly talented you were at teaching the Word, at opening up the Bible and really digging out the truth that's in it and making it make sense to, learn and expose the history behind things and all of those kind of things. And I said this to him, and, it touched him, and he didn't quite cry, but I could tell that he was, feeling emotional. And he said, it's really amazing that you would say that to me, because lately I've been questioning whether or not what I do I'm any good at, or whether or not I'm really reaching people. He said, I know the little church that I'm at, and the church, that they're at these days, I want to say the church is probably 25 or 30 people. It's not a big church. It's a great place to be, 80% retired and still be able to speak on a Sunday morning for my dad. And he said, they say nice things about me, but we had some thoughts now that I've gotten my doctorate of maybe I should, see what's out there and try getting a little bigger church or something. And, in the resumes that I've sent out, I haven't really gotten any responses. And I began to question whether or not, he said, I've been questioning whether or not what I'm doing I'm good at. And I was just shocked. I have to admit, it brought me to tears to hear him say that, because he's so talented. And yet, and my dad's been ministering. He'll be 80 this year. If you're listening live in 2019, he'll be 80 in August of 2019. And he's been preaching from pulpits since he was 15 years old. So that's, 65 years he's been opening the Word. And he's gone to college and to seminary and done a lot of training. He just got his doctorate last year, towards the end part of 2018, because it was a goal of his, and because he's a student, he loves learning. And even with all of that, he questioned whether or not what he was doing made a difference and whether or not he was actually good at it. And I know there's a lot of us in whatever thing we have in our life, we question whether or not, it's impactful. I find myself sometimes doing that with the radio show. I've said many, many times over, doing the radio show is kind of like my guilty pleasure. It is definitely a part of the strategy for our company, but I just love doing it. I enjoy having had conversations with Matthew Knowles and Lisa Nichols and, a whole bunch of others that you maybe have not heard of, and being able to just have fun conversations with them about their life, their business, their book, what they're doing in the world. But there are times, because of the nature of how radio works, it's me here, like, for example, right now with my eyes closed, focusing on what I'm saying, talking into a mic, and, there's no crowd. I've performed in front of tens of thousands, close to 100,000 in a couple of those events that I was in. So I know what it's like to get that large crowd feedback or that very small group intimate feedback. But on radio, there is none. And I too find myself saying, hey, is this reaching anybody? The numbers say it is. I've got stations that keep picking it up, and so something must be working. But that thought can come in. And I know a lot of you struggle with that too. Here's what I've learned. For years, I spent as the lead singer in a band, traveling with choirs, leading worship, all of those different kind of things. And what I know to be true is that if your heart's in the right place, if you're growing spiritually, if you're growing mind, body, and soul in all that's within you, when it comes that moment just before you step out, there's always that little check that comes up. And now I know some people that are sociopaths probably don't have this issue. And everybody has their own rituals. It's fun to watch behind the scenes with people like Tony Robbins, because they have a ritual where they're pumping themselves up. They're, doing calisthenics or whatever that might be to get their blood flowing. And it all comes from the same place, because there's that momentary question of, is what I'm doing powerful and impactful? It's just kind of the way human nature is. And what we learn to do is we learn to stop, to not listen to that voice, to, as they would teach in Motivating the Teen Spirit, plus press pause on the negative and press play on the powerful. When you do that, you then go into that calisthenics or the prayer or whatever your ritual is to get you to that place where you're then ready to serve. And that's really the point. Because I loved the first time I heard Lisa Nichols say this. It shot through my heart like a dagger and opened up my eyes in a way that I hadn't for so many years. It was never about you. Your message, your talent, your giftings, the things that you have that you do with grace and ease, they're not about you. They're for the person who you're speaking to, who you're sharing it with, who you're writing your book to. They're to help them. And so, as I said, we all have a book in us. And most of the time that book is based out of something that we do so gracefully, with so much ease, that we've discounted it to the level that, like my father, we may even be questioning whether or not we're any good at it. But I'm here to tell you today that you do have a message. It's a strong, powerful, impactful, amazing message. I hope those power words got through to you to the point where you're now saying yes. When Kathy and I do conferences and stuff like that, and Kathy's sharing our Write Your Bestseller in 1 hour workshop live, one of the things we'll do with the audience is we'll ask people to stand up if they know they have a book in them. And in most cases, because statistically speaking, 80% of the people in the world say that they want to write a book. Most, if not all, of the audience will stand up. And then she'll say, how many of you have known you should write that book for a year? And a few people will sit down. How many of you have known you should do it for 5 years? And some of the people will sit down. How about 10 years? And then, you start getting more and more to sit down. We've been in audiences where people have been knowing that they should write a book, been being told by all the people around them they should write a book for 30 or more years. Well, today is your day. Now is your time. I'm so excited to be able to present to you today just a little peek. It's not all by any means, but it's just a little peek into some of the information that Kathy shares when she's live at events, when she does our Write Your Bestseller in 1 hour workshop, when she shares from stage. There is so much. And yes, I'm biased. Kathy's always telling me, Steve, you can't say you're prejudiced because that means that, that has negative connotations, but you are, as my husband, biased towards me. And she's right. So to use my verbiage correctly, I am very biased. But I also know she's amazing. And I've heard so many other people tell me how amazing she is that I know that part of what she'll share today, and if you ever get an opportunity to see her live or even one of her online workshops, that you will be glad you did. I am encouraging you to really listen closely today. Kathy's going to drop some nuggets. She's going to do them with grace and ease. She's going to drop some of them that are going to rock your world, that she says and doesn't even know what kind of a monumental, cataclysmic change those words made in you. But I know they're in there, and I know that they're meant for you right now, today. And so I encourage you to really look deep inside, to commit yourself to listening closely today as Kathy shares some about who we are as Kid Marketing and a whole lot about what to work for a book and why you should do your book, so that you will take up the call and you will begin to work on your book. And while you're writing a book, why not make it a bestseller? It's one of the best ways I know to be able to live as a thriving entrepreneur. We'll be right back. You've heard Kathy and I talk about it. You've seen the workshops. You have watched as others of your friends have become a best-selling author. And now it's your turn. Let me ask you this. What would being a best-selling author do for your business? Over 80% of people surveyed said that they want to write a book, which means that if you're listening, you probably are one of those people. Now is your time because you have a message that needs to be shared. That message is not for you. It's not for your ego. It is because it serves other people. Kathy and I are here to help you share your unique brilliance with the world. All you need to do is go to WeHelpYouThrive.com, check us out, and find out how you can be a best-selling author today.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Today, I'm so excited to be able to bring to you my wife, Kathy, some recordings of some things that she's done as she shares with you how to write your bestseller, why you should write your bestseller, some impactful things that hopefully will inspire you that now is your time to write your bestseller. I want to get you in the right headspace to really be able to take this in powerfully and impactfully. So what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes. Now, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes while you're driving. That's very dangerous. But if you're in a place where you can pull over or whatever, close your eyes. Now, I want you to imagine you're walking through a high school, or you're at some place where it's not uncommon to see etched on the wall, painted on the wall, slogans, not slogans, but, quotes from books, things that are encouraging and inspiring. You've got that in your head? I always think of a school that I used to go to and a big quote that they had on the wall. So I want you to think about that, really get that in your mind. And now I want you to look up and I want you to read the quote and realize what you're reading is a quote from your book. And you read through all of it, and maybe, because you weren't expecting it, maybe it catches you off guard and you're like, wow, that sounds really familiar. Maybe the first time you read it, you don't look at the little thing at the bottom that says who it was by, and you read through it again and you think to yourself, that's really good words, that's inspiring stuff. But this time you look down at the bottom and it says that it's an excerpt from international best-selling author, and then your name and the name of your book. I want you to hold on to that for a minute. I want you to just really let it sink in. Words written on the wall that are inspiring people, inspiring the next generation, inspiring single moms, inspiring people in a corporation, whatever your niche might be, young or old, that people are walking by that quote. It's your quote from your best-selling book. And at the bottom, it says, by international best-selling author, and then your name. You got that picture now? So now, as you're holding that close to you, I'm so delighted to introduce to you my amazing better half, the incredibly beautiful, wonderful, and talented Kathy Kidd.
So a little bit about us. My husband and I, Steve, are a husband and wife team. We've actually independently been doing this kind of internet work for over 20 years each. He actually started out in 1995, if you can believe that, back when people were just getting their businesses online and in dial-up. We started in internet marketing. So in 2009, we wrote our first book. I wrote my first book. He helped me actually format it. And if he hadn't, man, I wouldn't have gotten it done. The technical part of it, he was really key. And that is when we discovered the absolute magical fire that having a bestseller is in marketing, no matter what industry you're in. Like, just absolutely amazing. So every client we had from that point, the question was, do you have a book? We need to make it a bestseller. And so the number one answer that we heard back was, I've been meaning to, I just haven't gotten around to it. I haven't had time, right? Anybody else? Anyone else ever had that excuse? And so we created this method where we could interview people or take their writing and turn it into a book and make it a bestseller quickly so that we could leverage it for marketing. So we look at things a little differently. We are a marketing company with a publishing department rather than a publishing company with a marketing department. So we're looking at your book as a tool to help you reach your goals. Do you want to be a speaker? Do you want to be a coach? Do you want to have online programs? Do you need more exposure? Are you going to be in television? Like, whatever those goals are, we want to look at how is your book going to do that for you. And here's the thing. I'll share a little bit more about myself. You know, when I was doing this previously, we had mostly clients by word of mouth. For almost 20 years, clients by word of mouth, and we were doing maybe 2 to 5 bestsellers a year. And in 2015, I started working with Lisa Nichols. If you haven't heard of her, please take time to go on YouTube and find her. Her videos are so inspirational, changed my life forever. And in the process of working with her, I came out of hiding because I was really hiding behind my clients. My purpose and what I felt really good about was these really amazing people that I was helping to get exposure out in the world. But meanwhile, I was kind of hiding behind them. Anyone else ever hidden behind your mission? Am I the only one, right? So in working with her, I started speaking on stages, started doing online program, and actually started sharing it with more people and teaching you guys how to do it for yourselves. Not just the formula that we did individually, but actually started sharing and helping people in groups to learn how to do this for themselves. In 2016, we had 156 best-selling authors in 1 year. And in that 1 year, because I went from doing 2 to 5 a year to doing 156, in that first year that we started sharing this on a mass scale, we tracked just the first day of their launch, just the first day. And on just those first day totals, it was 80,000 people that were reached with new books. That's pretty amazing. That is what gets me up in the morning. We've now helped over 480 best-selling authors to share their message with the world and change people's lives. That's why I love doing what I do. So let me share with you that we don't just write books, we make bestsellers. And we do this because we want you to share your message with the world. So do you have a story to share? Do you have a solution that someone needs? You're probably that go-to person that everybody comes to when they need the answer, right? And people tell you all the time, oh, you need to write a book, right? Anyone? Well, someone is waiting on you. There is somebody 10 steps behind you. There will always be somebody 10 steps ahead of you. But that person who's 10 steps or 20 steps behind you, they need what you have. They need that solution. and they need it in only the way that you can share it. Because if you take a topic like, let's say, finance, if you're writing a book on accounting, all accounting is pretty similar. Like there's no out of the box, method for tracking profit loss statement, right? But it's your story and the way you say it and the way you share it and the way you teach it that makes it different. And somebody is waiting on you exactly the way you share it. It's just some of the benefits of being a best-selling author. Not just an author, a best-selling author. It helps you get more speaking engagements. It is amazing in marketing. It does so much for you in marketing, I can't even begin to tell you. The credentials of being a best-selling author is phenomenal. And ultimately, you'll get more clients. And in the end, that's what we want, because you can't share your light with the world if you can't keep your lights on.
Doesn't that really inspire you? Now think about it for a minute. You have a message. You know you need to share it with the world. But you haven't eaten in days because you don't have any money. Have you ever been there? Some of us know what it's like to be in poverty. Some of us know what it's like to have the lights turned off. Some of us know what it's like to live in abundance. Both of those are there. They're available for you. But I want you to know that abundance is your birthright. And your message is meant to be shared with the world. And that there is money to be made from that thing that you do with grace and ease. That's a good thing. That's a powerful thing. That's something that's meant for you. And that, in the end, may be the best thing I can think of as an example of what it means to live as a thriving entrepreneur. We'll be right back.
You've heard Kathy and I talk about it. You've seen the workshops. You have watched as others of your friends have become a best-selling author. And now it's your turn. Let me ask you this. What would being a best-selling author do for your business? Over 80% of people surveyed said that they want to write a book, which means that if you're listening, you probably are one of those people. Now is your time, because you have a message that needs to be shared. That message is not for you. It's not for your ego. It is because it serves other people. Kathy and I are here to help you share your unique brilliance with the world. All you need to do is go to WeHelpYouThrive.com, check us out, and find out how you can be a best-selling author today.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur. Today I'm sharing with you just a little piece of my amazing wife, Kathy Kidd, and her Write Your Bestseller in 1 Hour workshop. Just some of the little beginning parts that introduce who we are as a company, and what we do and how we can help you show up great and powerful in the world. She talked in the last segment about who we are as a company and how we got to where we are. I wanted you, before you started into that segment, to really envision yourself as a best-selling author, as somebody whose quotes are on posters, they're on walls, they're all over the place. I want you to reclose your eyes and to refocus on international best-selling author you and your quotes impacting people. And while you do that, now listen to these examples that Kathy's going to give, and hopefully you'll see yourself in them.
So let me share with you a few stories of some of our authors. Sonia Noel, she already was a successful clothing designer, but had always wanted to write a book. And she had put it off because she always had something else coming up, something to do, right? And she finally got around to doing it. She wrote her first book in November 2017, and subsequently after that went on to write 2 more books. On the heels of writing that first book, like before she was even through it, people were contacting her to do articles in the newspaper about her upcoming book. They were using the cover of her book before it even came out. And then she went on to do an international 15-city tour. She grew her social media phenomenally. It's just been amazingly impactful for her. Just want to check the chat real quick. Ah, yes. Oh, well, yes, she is gorgeous, isn't she? So you can find her on Facebook, too, and follow her. She has an amazing story, and she's always great to, she'll share with you her story of writing her book and finally getting around to getting it done. And then she's already working on book number 4. So we'll talk about, I'll answer questions at the end about bestsellers, what the difference is between Amazon and New York Times and other newspapers. But I'm primarily talking about Amazon today. But I'm glad to answer all those questions and explain that at the end, because that's really important. So don't let me forget to answer that one at the end. I probably won't forget anyway, but. So let me share a few more with you. Pamela Garrison, because you'll probably see your story somewhere in one of these people, okay? So Pamela, she didn't yet have her coaching business, but she always dreamed of writing a book, having a coaching business, speaking on stages, that kind of thing, right? So when she chose to gift herself the investment of writing her book, I love the way she puts that she invested in gifting herself. So when she chose to do her book, it came out March 2018, so it's not even a year old. She immediately enrolled in some speaking programs. And since then, she's spoken on stage at Harvard, in New York at Teachable. She's done some events here in California and in New Orleans. She's on track to do more speaking this coming year. And again, her book hasn't been out even a year, and she calls this her little book that could. It's a short read, and she was doing a book signing in Southern California, and 2 different people at that event came to her table and said, could you come speak at our event? And so she ended up booking more speakings from that event, and she's currently wrapping up her first online coaching program. So less than a year and already speaking at Harvard. That's pretty phenomenal, right? Naomi Sodeman. Naomi was extremely successful in her industry. Her bonus alone was $50,000 a year. So she was doing very well by all standards. Wonderful husband, good marriage, wonderful child, very successful in her career, but she just didn't feel fulfilled. She dreamed of having her own business, specifically coaching business. And so she hired a coach who was helping her create a new business and said, you need to write a book. And she sent her to me and said, you need to talk to Kathy. She's like, well, I never intended to write a book. I didn't think I, would ever write a book. And she said that we made it so easy for her. She has actually gone on to write her second book. It's not on here. I should put that up here. But from that, in her first year, she turned her book into an online program, and she has exploded her business. In her first year alone, she made $100,000 in her brand new coaching business. It helped her to grow her social media. And the big thing was there was a particular podcast that every month she applied to be on. And every month they turned her away. And then the first month after she became a best-selling author, she wrote to them and she said, I am Naomi Sodeman. I'm a best-selling author. Here's a link to my new book. And they said, wonderful. We'd love to have you on the show. So she wasn't any different. Her knowledge wasn't any different, but they took her more seriously as a best-selling author. And she has leveraged it as a tool, and it's been phenomenal for her. Dr. Alicia Griffith, Dr. Ali, as she's known on Facebook, wonderful, wonderful woman. But what I love most about her story is She will tell you that the credentials of becoming a best-selling author have done more for her than the credentials of being a doctor. That's really, really magnificent, right? How impactful is that? So within a month of launching her brand new bestseller, she did her first television interview. It was an hour-long special on TBN. And I love the whole time the interviewer is holding her book, opening it, asking her questions, because we know that you're more likely to get into media when you have a book because they don't like asking questions they don't know the answer to. If you are an expert with a book, they can ask questions that they already know you're going to answer this way. So it will help you get into media. Since then, she's been on the Today Show twice, Good Morning America, and a host of other things and stages that she's done. So absolutely phenomenal. This is one of my favorite stories. I would be absolutely remiss if I did not share with you our final author in this list, Carl Michel. Carl is a really neat guy. He came to us. He had actually published his book with a company that printed the books and gave him a box of books, right? It's a product that they produce. And he would call schools and organizations and offer to come speak for free. But he couldn't get them to even return his call to speak for free. Well, we took that book, published it, made it a bestseller and available to all schools, libraries, bookstores, and on Amazon. And then he started calling and saying, I'm best-selling author, Carl Michel, I'd love to come speak at your school. Within a year, he was getting calls from people and charging for those speaking events. Since then, he's gone on to do television. He's been on several shows. Anytime he gets in touch with a celebrity, particularly anyone that's listed in his book, like Lauryn Hill, he has a great picture with Lauryn Hill, obviously Common, all kinds of celebrity endorsements, especially from people who are listed in his book, because he uses their quotes. And he takes his book everywhere with him. Now he's like booked out solid into years in advance. It's hard to even get him to return my phone call because he's constantly traveling. He's won all kinds of awards. So if you're you're trying to speak for free and they won't even return your call, know that Carl was there. And know that within a year, he had people calling him and booking gigs that he got paid for. And now he's gone on to do really amazing things. It makes all the difference in the world. Now, I can make you a bestseller, but you have to have quality content. That's the other part of it, okay? Because if you go look at Carl's book today, it's, 3 years old now, still in the top 5 bestsellers and very often number 1 because quality content. We don't just write books, we write bestsellers, right? We help speakers, authors, coaches, particularly, to share their message with the world. So of course I have to ask you, do you have a message to share? Would being a best-selling author help you get more exposure? Yes. Would more exposure help you reach more people, get more clients, do more good in the world? Yes. We have a proven bestseller formula. We've already tried it out on almost 500 bestsellers. We have a 100% success rate. So they've been all the guinea pigs. You guys are now the real deal, right? 100% success rate. So we have people that we've done it for them, and we have people that we've taught how to do it. Every last one of them is a bestseller because they follow this formula. And the formula is based on what do readers want? What do your clients respond to? What can you leverage to do more? And that's what the formula is based out of. So first, let's talk about what kind of book to write. So let me share with you that short reads are hot. They always have been. But now that we have this thing called the internet, everything, including books, are driven by the clients, the demand. So much so that Amazon has created an entirely different category called short reads. They're more popular than ever because we have busy on-demand lifestyles. So people consume the information faster, and we need more of them. Like, how many of you have purchased a book and not gotten all the way through it? Am I the only one? How many of you have a stack of books? You've gotten what you needed out of it, and you didn't make it to the end. Am I the only one? How many of you have read a short book and thought, that was so good, right? So we as consumers prefer short reads. And in the past, back in the 1800s, when publishing was first created as a mass production organization, it was based on, from a perspective of the publishing companies looking at what are they going to produce and how are they going to make money. So they needed to produce something that was entertaining or informative. That's why they hire authors. And then the product itself, bound in, leather or paper or cardboard or whatever. And the thing is that they found out that it costs just a little bit more to make a 300-page product than a 100-page product. And they could charge more for a 300-page product than a 100-page product. So all books had to be at least 300 or 350 pages minimum. Not because it's what people wanted, not because it's what was required of the content, but because that's what the publishing companies made a profit on, okay? So if you look at Steinbeck wrote almost exclusively short stories, The Pearl and all that stuff, but they were put into compilations. If you look at A Christmas Carol, all those kinds, from way back when, we love short reads, but they would compile them into one book. But you had to write longer books before you ever got to be able to publish your short stories. Point is, we love short stories. So now, in modern day and age, if you look at John Maxwell, he's published over 100 books, and now he's wise to this short read thing, right? Instead of publishing a 500-page business book like he would have in the past, he published 5 150-page books, 160-page books that are broken down by topic because they're easier to consume. It's actually more profitable because if somebody buys one on finance and then figures out they need something else on leadership, and then they figure out they need something on management, So it really is the smarter way to go. And people are more satisfied with it. Several of his others are short reads as well. So if you've seen these in the airport or bookstores, you're probably familiar with them. TED, if you've heard of TED Talks, they now have books that they're publishing. The whole point of TED Talks is a shorter, where we used to do an hour-long keynote. TED Talks are 18 minutes and just one topic, whereas an hour-long keynote could be several things, right? Books, same thing. Short 150-page books. That's what TED puts out now, okay? So New York Times bestselling author Seth Godin, written nearly 20 short reads. 5 of his books are less than 100 pages. One of them is only 64 pages. V is for vulnerable, which is a very, very impactful book for our marketing industry. Love Seth Godin. If you're interested in marketing, you've got to check him out. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. Beautiful little book. It's just 160 pages. If you actually pick this book up, I have it on my shelf. It has 1-inch margins all the way around. The chapters start halfway down the page, has lots of embellishments, but it's not the number of words. It's the quality of the content. and it's an easy read from end to end. Was number one in self-help, which is a difficult category to reach number one in, and it was editor's best pick of the month. Great little book. Has anyone read this book? Who Moved My Cheese? If you have ever worked in the corporate world, you have seen this book. It has sold over 28 million copies. It's just 95 pages. It's in large print and has wide margins. But this book is so impactful. I'm going to say this again. 28 million copies. It's been translated into 44 different languages. One of my very favorite marketing books. It is Marketing in Less Than 1,000 Words. It's just 6 little pages. Thing is I've been doing marketing for over 20 years now, and I read these 999 words, and I learned a few things. Quality content. Quality of the content.
It is all about the quality of the content. And I want to be the one to tell you, just in case you're questioning yourself right now, that the content that is within you, the thing that you do so gracefully with such ease, it is quality. For those of you that have heard the interview I did with CC President, she talks about how it's all about the quality of your questions. Maybe you heard when we were talking about the book Affirmations and the fact that your mind wants to answer whatever question you ask it. And so we find ourselves questioning whether what we have to share is quality because we're asking ourselves the wrong question and we're coming up with the wrong answer. We're asking ourselves, is this worth sharing? Is there anybody that really wants this? Will anybody read my book? Have you ever said any of those questions? I encourage you to come up with some new questions to be able to aspire and inspire yourself to the quality that you do have in you. Questions like, I wonder who I could serve today. What is it that I'm doing today that somebody needs, and how could I help them? What are the things that I'm doing today that I'd like to share? What are the things that people around me ask me to share? And what are the things that I know that I can do? Give yourself permission to see that thing that you've been doing, possibly even for years, with grace and ease, and then really, truly do it and share it with the world. The world needs you. We need you to share your stuff. The world will be a better place when you do it. So please ask yourself the right questions. Empower yourself with powerful questions that make your mind come up with reasons why you are so amazing. Because you are so amazing. And then share that with the world. And while you're doing that, write it as a book and let's make it a bestseller. How does that sound? Doesn't that sound like the perfect way to live as a thriving entrepreneur? Don't go away. We'll be right back with more from Kathy.
You've heard Kathy and I talk about it. You've seen the workshops. You have watched as others of your friends have become a best-selling author. And now it's your turn. Let me ask you this. What would being a best-selling author do for your business? Over 80% of people surveyed said that they want to write a book, which means that if you're listening, you probably are one of those people. Now is your time because you have a message that needs to be shared. That message is not for you. It's not for your ego. It is because it serves other people. Kathy and I are here to help you share your unique brilliance with the world. All you need to do is go to WeHelpYouThrive.com, check us out, and find out how you can be a best-selling author today.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur. Today, I've been sharing with you my amazing wife, Kathy, as she talks to you about your bestseller, about the reasons why, the things that we as a company aspire to and do for people, and wonderful, amazing stories of people who have done it just like you. I hope you saw yourself in that. And then lastly, in that last segment, she also shared with you what kind of books people are wanting to read and how powerful really sharing your message can be when it's done in the right way. Remember, as Kathy said, we're a marketing company with a strong publishing division. What that means to you is that unlike a publishing company who exists for them to make money as a company from the sale of books, whether you make money, whether it reaches anybody, that's not in their business plan. Their business plan is for them to make money with the sale of the book. We, on the other hand, as a marketing company, our whole company exists with the goal of sharing you with the world, marketing you to help you help others, and to get you to that next thing, to get you to that thing that's really going to make you money. We'd love to help you be able to do that. And I would really love for you to listen in this last little bit as Kathy talks and be inspired to share your message with the world. And as long as you're going to write a book, why not make it a bestseller?
So what if I told you that you don't have to write another word? Like, some people love the art of creative writing. More power to you. I love the people who do. But there are a lot of us who can speak our story, who can share from stage, but don't love to sit down and write. We get up all in our heads about, is this a run-on sentence, or should I have a comma here? And it distracts from the story we're sharing. If you've read Lisa Nichols' Abundance Now, if you happen to know who she is, you've seen her on stage, you read her book, it was written entirely from interview. If you've ever read The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz, written entirely from interview. They didn't have to write a single word. They just spoke their book. And then the editors edit and do what they do. So what we do is we either interview you or we teach you how to interview yourself. Pretty cool, right? So we would love to have you come join us in Bestsellers Guild. Bestsellers Guild is a group of over 3,000 people. It's where our 400 and almost 500 best-selling authors hang out, and a whole lot of aspiring best-selling authors. And that's where we would love to have you join us. It's an active group.
That's the Bestsellers Guild. You can get there simply by going to bestsellersguild.com. If you're on Facebook, you can just search for Bestsellers Guild. Either way, it is a closed group, or a private group rather. So you will have to ask to join. We would love to include you in. It's not done to exclude people, but just simply so that we can do things in there that we wouldn't do for the public. Like, for example, our Write Your Bestseller in 1 hour workshop. Kathy does one of those probably at least every month, and within it, the whole part that you didn't hear is where Kathy does walk through with you specifically and helps you be able to write that book. By the end of that time, you'll have at least the outline. Some people have their whole book done by the end of just that 1 hour. Now imagine that for a minute. Remember earlier I talked about how, when we do events, we have people stand up and say that they are working on a book, that they want to write a book. We know statistically that 80% of the people in the world want to write a book. We also know that less than 5% of them ever do. What that means is you have a book in you. You maybe have even told people that you are writing a book or that you're gonna write a book. But it's a high probability that you haven't yet. And that's okay. I'm not saying that in any way to make you feel condemnation or guilt or any of those kind of things, but just simply to now inspire you that now is your time. You have the ability to do it. You have a message. And I hope by the end of this hour that you are inspired by the fact that that thing that you do with grace and ease, that thing that maybe like my dad was doing, that you've done for years and you now find yourself questioning whether you've really made an impact ever on anybody. I want you to know that you have, and that now is your time to share that message with the world. Come join us in Bestsellers Guild. Again, that's bestsellersguild.com. It's a free group. We'd love to have you in there and to help you share your message with the world. Because here's what I know for sure. Have you ever heard Oprah write in O Magazine, What I Know for Sure? Here's what I know for sure. And that is that you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose. And the world needs you. I hope that while you were listening to Kathy today, that vision of yourself, seeing your words written on the wall, and it saying below it that it was written by international best-selling author you. I hope that rings so true to you that you find yourself looking for paper and pen or sitting down at your computer and beginning to write right now. If you join us in Bestsellers Guild, there's even some replays of the Write Your Bestseller in 1 hour workshop that you can listen to immediately. You could join our class, join one of our programs, and we'd gladly help you get that book out. The point is, you are amazing. You have a message. You have a story to share that only you can share with the world. And now is the time to do it. Now is your time to write your book. And while you're writing your book, why not make it a bestseller? Doesn't that sound good? Take that in. Go look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am a best-selling author. Hi, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm a best-selling author. Think about that one. Take that in for a little bit and see if that doesn't help you feel welling up with inside of you a thriving entrepreneur. Kathy and I are here to help you to get that book out, to share your message with the world, to make the impact that only you can make so that you can be the best version of yourself and so that you can live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. Until next time, have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
You've heard Kathy and I talk about it. You've seen the workshops. You have watched as others of your friends have become a best-selling author. And now it's your turn. Let me ask you this. What would being a best-selling author do for your business? Over 80% of people surveyed said that they want to write a book, which means that if you're listening, you probably are one of those people. Now is your time because you have a message that needs to be shared. That message is not for you. It's not for your ego. It is because it serves other people. Kathy and I are here to help you share your unique brilliance with the world. All you need to do is go to WeHelpYouThrive.com, check us out, and find out how you can be a best-selling author today.